Foreign Secretary is with us this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, wherever you're watching us. Are you a Taylor Swift fan?
I do like a bit of Taylor Swift.
You looked as though you would.
Yeah, I do like a bit of Taylor Swift at the karaoke. I think it suits my persona.
OK, what's your favourite song?
We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together.
I knew you would say that as well. I suppose you could sing that to Liz Truss, couldn't you? No, tell me about this deal.
Well, look, we have got to get a grip of the international trade in human misery, these people traffickers who are putting lives at risk by facilitating the illegal crossing of migrants into the UK and around the world. We've got to get a grip of that. And we've got to do that with partners. That's why part of the reason why I was in France last week speaking with my opposite number and the reason that the Home Secretary is speaking with her opposite number in France, because we do need to work with our international partners, including France and including the countries from which these people come, to break the business model of these people traffickers and to prevent these illegal crossings into the UK.
How does it differ from previous deals?
Well, we need to always adapt and update. We see that these people traffickers constantly changing their tactics, the way they use technology, how they try and evade law enforcement. So it's important that we speak with our international friends and allies about updating our procedures. But also, of course, we need to make sure that these deals, these arrangements, these agreements continue, and that's what the Home Secretary will be doing.
So
today.
is there any major difference between this deal and the ones that Priti Patel did and the one that cost us tens of millions that had been done previously as well?
Well, you've got to remember...
And also the Letuke agreement.
So those deals have been effective. They've not completely stopped the crossings, but, for example, France has stopped 29,000 illegal crossings. That's twice the number that they stopped in the previous year. These are significant numbers. Sadly, unfortunately, there are still significant numbers of people crossing the Channel, so we've got to work on that. We've also got to work on repatriating them back to their countries quickly. But these agreements do have an effect. They are not the complete solution. We have to, as I say, work with the countries from which these people come, the countries that they're travelling through, and also, of course, we need to make sure that our legal processes are fast, effective, fair, but also are understood that we will repatriate people, we will send people back if they don't have a legitimate reason to be here.
So the 80 million quid that we're going to give to France for this latest deal, what sort of numbers would you like to see reduced by the French side in order for it to have been worth the money?
Well, look, these are the things that the Home Secretary will be discussing with her opposite number.
You must have talked to them.
Look, we want, of course...
You were there last week.
As I say, I was speaking with the French foreign
So you didn't
minister.
come up with a number, though?
So it wasn't... It's not part of my... part of the process to come up with the specific numbers. That's for the Home Secretary and her counterpart. But the French, of course, understand how important this is. They don't want to see these people on their beaches. They don't want to see these criminal gangs operating in their country. And we've made, with the cooperation of international partners, we've made over 500 arrests of these people traffickers. We've broken over 50 criminal gangs. This is what we do by working together. Numbers. Exactly, it's what we do by working together. But there's still more work to do.
And you also trumpeted the 29,000. So what I'm saying to you is, for the 80 million quid that it's going to cost us, what do you want to see as a result?
Well, look, the numbers are...
The
numbers are... Well, ultimately, what we want to see is these crossings reduced completely. But we have to be realistic that the people traffickers are working incredibly hard to try and beat law enforcement.
Okay.
We need to work just as hard to counter their illegal activities.
The Brits wanted to be part of the patrols to try to stop the crossings. That was one of the sticking points, and the French wouldn't let us. How do you feel about that? Well,
we have got to make sure that we understand the respective jurisdictions. We need to make sure that our law enforcement officials are working as effectively as possible. The details of the agreement, that will be thrashed out between the Home Secretary and the French Interior Minister. The important thing is that we work closely. The important thing is that we're sharing information. The important thing is we are gripping the people traffickers and preventing their evil business. That is exactly how we do that. That will be done. That will be agreed through negotiations. But the important thing is that we are and we will continue to work very, very closely
Yeah,
with
but the
French
thing
officials.
is, I mean, the last two deals, I'm just looking at the numbers. Priti Patel's £54 million. Before that, November 2020, £28 million deal. They haven't been successful because we're seeing them coming over, migrants coming over, whether you call them illegal or not, in record numbers. So
well, look, no one thing provides the complete answer to this, and that's why, as I say, we've got to deal with the situation in the countries where these people come from, whether they're fleeing economic circumstances or war or conflict. We need to try and make the countries that they're coming from better, so there's less incentive for them to leave. We have to make sure we work with our international partners. And as I say, the deals that Suella's predecessor put in place have had an effect. They have not completely stopped it, and that, sadly, is why we're still seeing people crossing on small boats, but they have had an effect.
In record
They
numbers.
have broken a number of these criminal gangs. They have prevented tens of thousands of people crossing the channel, and they have broken a significant number of criminal gangs.
Still, they come in record numbers.
But indeed, and we are not going to rest. We are not going to rest until we get resolution on this. And the arrangement that we're making with France is incredibly important, and it's part of an overall mix.
We want our border force to be on French territory, which is what we've agreed. But apparently the border force are going on strike. So where does that leave the deal?
Well, I think it is... look, we all recognise that public servants are under pressure because of the economic situation we're seeing right across the globe. And we absolutely recognise that. But ultimately, there is a really important job to do. The border force officials play an important part of keeping our country safe. I would want them to be focused exclusively on that. And they have to recognise that this is a very difficult economic situation right across the globe.
No, I understand, but where does it leave the deal if they're on strike?
Well, as I say, we will, I have no doubt, work with the representative bodies of the border force to encourage them to stay focused on the job in hand. But ultimately, at minister level, we will be negotiating with our friends and allies around the world to put arrangements in place to protect ourselves from these illegal migrations.
OK. Data released to the Refugee Council by the Home Office, 122,206 migrants waiting to have their claims assessed. 725 have been waiting for more than 5 years. Isn't that where we should be investing the money?
Well, look, we do have to speed up the processing of claims, and there are improvements that we've driven through the recent legislation we took through the House, legislation that was opposed by the Labour Party to prevent things like multiple claims, which massively slow down the system, to ensure that the processing of migrants can be done fairly but fast. That's better for everybody. It's better for them, so they know what their status is. It's better for the UK because it costs us less money and we can resolve these issues. And so the legislation that we have recently put in place will go a long way to addressing those long delays, which are not good for anyone. They're not good for the migrants themselves. They're certainly not good for the UK.
Always looking for ways to try to save money or invest money in order to make things better for migrants, etc. And we've been hearing from the immigration minister, and he has said, weirdly, Robert Jenrick, that those coming should be given simple, functional accommodation that does not create an additional pull factor. For 1 second, do you think that people are fleeing the situation in Afghanistan so they can stay in a Premier Inn in Dover?
Well, we do know. So the Afghans that supported us whilst we were in Afghanistan, we do have a duty to them, and we are absolutely supporting them, and that's why we have supported a significant number of them coming to the UK. However, but this directly to your question, however, there are definitely people coming to the UK, not because they are fleeing persecution, because they are seeking economically a better life. Now, I completely get that. The UK is a great place to live and work, and it is unsurprising that people around the world want to come here. But we know there's video footage. There are people posting
to stay in a hotel.
There are people posting onto social media the fact that they are really happy that they are coming to the UK, that they've got to the UK seeking a better economic life, not fleeing persecution, seeking a better economic life.
But it's crass to suggest they're coming to stay in a hotel.
That is very, very different to the people fleeing persecution,
but people are
conflict,
not
like the Afghans,
risking their lives
like
on a boat.
Some people
coming in order to stay in a hotel in Dover. They're just not.
Some people are definitely motivated to come to the UK because they feel this is a nicer and better place to live and work than where they currently live. They are economic migrants, and it's really, really important when we have this discussion about illicit immigration. There are some people, like the Hong Kongers, like the Ukrainians, like the Afghans, who are fleeing war or persecution.
Yeah.
There are others who are economic migrants. We really need to recognise.
Okay.
And some of those economic migrants put themselves in the hands of people traffickers, but we have to recognise there is a difference.
How many do you think we'll finally send to Rwanda?
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
None?
What we do, no, we're going through legal processes to get those flights taken off.
Turn.
But we will continue to put forward plans to break the economic model of the people traffickers. The message we need to send to the people who put their lives and money in the hands of people traffickers is it is a waste.
But
it's
they
a
know
waste
that,
of
and
money.
they're still coming.
But we have to make
Cost us
sure
120 million
we
quid.
have to make sure that people recognise that it is a waste of money to pay people traffickers to get to the UK because they will be repatriated.
Finally, we're almost out of time.
Sure.
The boss has been criticising Putin in one of the papers this morning for not going along to the G20 summit. If he changed his mind and he did go, would our Prime Minister sit down with him?
Well, we will confront Russia about their behaviour. We're not going to.
Or no?
So what we're not going to do is we're not going to normalise the relationship.
Would he sit down with Putin?
We're not going to normalise the relationship with Russia because Russia has invaded its neighbour. It has breached the UN Charter.
You can't criticise him for not going and then not sit down with him.
We will absolutely, as we do. When I was at the United Nations a little earlier on this autumn, I sat in the same room as Sergei Lavrov. I criticised the Russian invasion of Ukraine. I stood in solidarity with international colleagues and friends. If, at whatever level Russia is represented at the G20, the Prime Minister will absolutely call them out, absolutely confront them.
But would he sit down with
Putin? For their illegal, unprovoked invasion of Ukraine.
Would he sit down with Putin?
OK.
You can't criticise him for not going and then...
You're trying to make a... I mean, you're trying to make a, I don't know, a question out of something which, for me, is a really, really straightforward. We will confront them. We are not going to normalise them. We are not going to act with them as we would do with our friends and allies at the G20. That is, we are not going to normalise the relationship in light of the appalling activity that
would he sit down with Putin if he went?
That we've seen Russia conducting. We will absolutely confront them. We will absolutely call them out.
Good to see you, as always. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.